Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, and historian. It is Thursday, October 12th, 2023, and we are speaking with Sista Nubia Wardford, who is a archaeologist, but as she also explains herself as a cultural anthropologist. She holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree in anthropology and a Master of Arts degree in historic archaeology. And she's you're working on your PhD now?
Right? PhD at Temple University.
Yeah, she's working on a PhD in Temple University. That's where my friend Dr. Malefi Kete Asante is. We just had Dr. Asante here on the African History Network show in it was April 2023. We were discussing Queen Cleopatra VII and the anti-Black sentiments coming out of Egypt and all of that controversy. Sista Nubia Wardford is an archaeologist that studies ancient Kush, and we know that region in ancient times was also referred to as Nubia. She is a cultural scientist who takes a holistic approach to studying the past. She incorporates history, excavations, past research, and comparisons to present-day traditional cultures within existing ethnic groups in the area of study. Okay, now I have seen I'm just telling you, I have seen some of her presentations in person, and her presentations are bad. And my teachers are Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor James Small, Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, Dr. Ray Hagens, Dr. Claude Anderson, things like this. And I was good friends with Ahati Kalindi E. We both knew Ahati Kalindi E. So I know real scholars when I see them. Okay, she's a real scholar. I'm telling you right now. She was born in and raised in the city of Detroit, and Sista Nubia became interested in geology and paleontology at the age of 7 while digging in the earth and researching stones, plants, and animal fossils of Michigan. Okay, so Sista Nubia, so the name of this class is Prehistory and History of Ancient Kush to the Meroitic Queens. Okay, so give us an overview of this class. And she's also spoken to my class for the online history class that I teach. She's spoken to us as well, so people loved her teachings. Give us a brief overview of this class.
This class will go from Kerma, civilization from like 10,000 BC to 500 AD. So we'll take you all the way from the unknown to the known.
Okay, from the unknown to the known. Okay, right. So when we talk about, so let's start. Let's go back and look at the beginning here. And you know, you've been on our show before. You've talked about Kush. You talked about Nubia, things of this nature. Tell us the difference. Let's start for people who may not be familiar with any of this information. We hear a lot about Egypt. We hear about Kemet. Okay, not as much about Kush. Tell us, what was Kush? Kush. What was Kush?
Kush was a civilization, what would be considered the upper Nile River. And because of the flow of the Nile River going from north to from north to south, which in the southern orientation where the world, they looked at the world differently, basically determined by their surroundings. And their world was based on their surroundings and the flow of the Nile River. And the culture is thought to come up the Nile River, of course, and, you know, and spread out from Nile River. The Nile Valley civilization is not only just Egypt, not only just Kush, not only just Sudan, today's Egypt, yesterday's Kemet, today's Sudan, yesterday's Kush, Meroe, Ta-Nehesi. It was all the surrounding areas which were a part of that Nile Valley culture and contributed to the development of it. We're talking about Mali. We're talking about Uganda. We're talking about Chad. We're talking about the Republic of the Congo. We're talking about Eritrea, Ethiopia, Kenya. All of these, Zimbabwe even. We're talking about all these cultures that evolved from the Nile River, civilization, feeding the cultures, feeding the traditions in all of those African places. Now we have it today where the usurpers of the traditions that live there today the Arabics that live there today, which claim the culture, don't connect the Africanity to it. Those people themselves did not call the land Africa, but they did relate to the cultures that surrounded the area. They had no question that they were related to the cultures that surround that, even as far as the Levant. So the people understood what information fed the culture.
Okay. So when does and Kush was a region more so than, say, a country. Okay. And within Kush, we're going to have like Kerma that's going to come into existence. I think somewhere around 300 BC or so. We're going to have when is Kerma?
Kerma culture is actually 10,000 years old. That's part of the prehistoric.
Okay, Kerma is prehistoric. Okay, Kerma culture. Okay, now we're going to have like Meroitic. We're going to have all this within this region of Kush. Okay, so within Kush, we're going to have what we would call different empires, because the geographical boundaries that we see today in Africa largely come from the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885. That in ancient times we didn't have those geographical boundaries, those same, generally speaking. So, go ahead.
Well, the cultures that you have there can be said. Now, Kush was definitely an empire. There were times where Kushite civilization overtook ancient Egypt.
Okay, right.
We know specifically in the 25th dynasty that starting with Pianki and Shabaka in that line that goes to Taharqa, that civilization definitely took over. But there's not been a time up to almost the 30th dynasty, I say at least the 27th dynasty, that ancient Kushites were not involved in the culture. They were so closely related. Their culture is so very closely related. It's hard and sometimes to make the distinction between Kushite culture and Egyptian culture, especially in the 25th dynasty when Taharqa's mission and his family's mission was to revive the ancient culture. So you see definitely a marrying of the cultures, where Amen, who is the top tier spiritual representatives in this culture, that he takes form, and that's where you get the name Amen at the end of sentences from Amen and Amen Ra. We know come from the mountain that's called Tua, which we call Jebel Barkal, but the ancient Tua or Twa, which we can probably relate it to the Twa people at some point in time, but that's not been proven. That's just another theory that these names that we are calling these people are definitely related to some prehistoric activity. Even going to the first dynasty, where we see Mernit as a queen, and we have Narmer, or as the first pharaoh. That culture goes all the way back down across to the Levant culture. Even the what they call the Narmer palettes are shaped just like the Levant, and that's basically trying to tell us their origins.
Okay, all right. Now with we know that the capital is moved to Meroitic around 300 BC or so, somewhere around there. Okay. Now, when does Meroitic come into existence? About what period of time?
Meroitic is coming into existence about 350 BC and stays in place to about 500 AD. I mean, as far as the known place of it, the location of it. So these Meroitic queens are functioning, and they're like on top, by 30 BC, at the same time when Cleopatra was around. You have these queens. You have the queen of Saba, which is Makeda, who's around. These queens that are functioning, and they are regnant queens, where they are reigning. They didn't inherit it from their husband. The lineage goes through them. So there's 300 Meroitic, there's 350 years of leadership by women. And that's, that's not something that came into existence before this time, that we know that the women were in existence and they were leading the culture, followed directly by, which we know of, the queens, the European queens, which had these queens that were functioning and running the societies. But it started off in Africa because of their egalitarian thinking, that women were just as worthy as men to run a civilization. In fact, in Sudan today, there's 7 court justices are 7 women in the Supreme Court. So these traditions of education, of leadership, exist today.
Okay. Now, when we talk about, now there are more pyramids today in Sudan than there are in Egypt, basically. And when we talk about Nubia in ancient times, we're talking about basically the lower portion, the southern portion of Egypt today, and the upper portion of Sudan. Historically, that was what we call Nubia. And you've talked about, like in your lectures, and I've seen in other presentations, how the design of the pyramids in Nubia were different than the pyramids that we would see in ancient Kemet. The width of the base and things like this, right? Mm-hmm. Can you talk for a minute about one, approximately how many pyramids are in Sudan in relationship to Egypt, and then what's the difference in the design as well in the 2 pyramids?
Well, the count has gone up. There's over 285 pyramids now.
Right.
Some of the pyramids have been dismantled, but you see evidence of the bases. So the count is up to 285. I presume
in Sudan, yeah,
in Sudan. Mm-hmm. But I presume that under some of those dunes that we, once we start doing more scans and aerial photography with drones, that we're going to find more bases to these pyramids. The pyramids were dismantled, and people used them in modern architecture, whether it's their house or buildings and things. They took those stones and they reused them, not having the cultural, no longer having the cultural connection to the ancient culture, because the mainstream culture, at least in northern Sudan, is Islam. But right. in southern Sudan, which has now been divided in a country as of 2011, there is more consistency with the traditions to the ancient culture. And there's probably, South Sudan is pregnant and ready for archaeological excavation, because there's a lot of remaining information there that is virgin territory as far as archaeological research. And I think we're going to find a lot of information. 97% of the archaeological sites have not been recovered. Period.
Right.
You can walk around in the desert in Sudan and find an archaeological site just brushing your feet in the sand.
I remember you saying that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found 2 just walking around in the sand, and you can actually see archaeological sites all over the desert. So just as this report says, 35 ancient pyramids discovered in Sudan. This is going to continue to happen, because right. It's the antiquity of that civilization. We know that the civilization was there at least 10,000 BC, but we also know now that humanity in that area goes back nearly 1 million years, over 750,000 years. We know that there are Homo sapiens. Now, the debate is Homo sapiens sapien or Homo sapien, but there are people that are doing gold mining and creating artifacts 750,000 years ago, far beyond any other civilization in the world.
Okay. Now, when we look at like this article here, this is from Scientific American, and I remember when this discovery came out. This article is from February 6, 2013. 35 ancient pyramids discovered in Sudan. 35 ancient pyramids discovered in Sudan, built during the height of the Kush kingdom. Okay, this is what we're talking about. A group of 2,000-year-old pyramids resemble French formal gardens. And briefly here, it says at least 35 small pyramids along with graves have been discovered clustered closely together at a site called, how do you pronounce it, Sadinga? Sadinga in Sudan. Discovered between 2009 and 2012. Researchers are surprised at how densely the pyramids are concentrated. In one field season alone in 2011, the research team discovered 13 pyramids packed into roughly 5,381 square feet, or slightly larger than an NBA basketball court. They date back around 2,000 years to a time when a kingdom named Kush flourished in Sudan. Kush shared a border with Egypt, and later on the Roman Empire. The desire of the kingdom's people to build pyramids was apparently influenced by Egyptian funerary architecture. So talk about which, for people who aren't familiar with this type of information, which came first, Kush or Kemet?
Kush came first. Ancient Kush, or some of the ancient kings in the area or leaders in the area. One of the most ancient names is Kesh, and it is thought that the name Kush comes from his name, Kesh, the land of Kesh or Kush.
And how are you spelling Kesh? Is that Kesh?
Kesh. Okay. So it's thought that, that the name of Kush comes from there, that he was the king of Kesh. And so we're not sure if that was his title or his name. Meroitic script has yet to be totally deciphered. There is a French linguist called Claude Riley who is working on it. Also, Dr. Ben Levy in Chicago has also done some significant work on Meroitic script.
Oh, Professor Joseph Ben Levy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. We know him. Yeah. You and I know Professor Ben Levy. He's spoken here in Detroit back about 2013, 2014. He and Dr. Raketi Amen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they're doing some work. Him and Raketi are working together to decipher some of those scripts. So the race is on. Who is going to totally decipher it? They know names of leadership, the kings and queens and years, but the script in between, they're not sure. They're looking for a Rosetta Stone type of artifact that can tell a little bit more about the language system there, and it could be deciphered in total.
Okay, now, how far, when we talk about ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet, okay, Kemet meaning the land of the blacks, how, you said Kush is older than Kemet.
Definitely.
How old is Kemet? What period of time does Kemet come into existence? And then tell us again, how old is Kush?
Ancient Kemet, once again, there, when you see the history of them, it's coming into existence between 6 and 8,000 BC.
Right.
Okay. Before 6,000 BC, that's called the prehistoric period. But there's activity in ancient Kemet at that point. But they are calling themselves Kemetu, the Scorpion King, who is a king before them that they think is possibly Pharaoh Din or King Din, D-E-N, is, it's beyond 6,000 years. I'd say between 8 and 6,000 years. And there are pharaohs that are missing in all of the dynasties. We don't know each leader. There's a lot of missing information about the culture, about the traditions in ancient Kemet, and a plethora of information that is missing out of ancient Kush. So you could say that that culture, that ancient Kemet, 6,000, 6,000 BC came into existence with the first pharaoh that would be.
That'd be Aha. That'd be Menor.
Narmer.
Narmer. Yeah, Narmer. So usually they put the unification of Upper and Lower Kemet right around 3,000, 3,200 BC, somewhere right around there.
Yeah, around the first dynasty, and that's the first family that they have documented. But the prehistory says before. There are monuments in Kemet that are prehistoric still,
right?
That have not been assigned to a dynasty, to a person that built it. So there's a lot of mystery going on. And then before that is Kerma, which we find that civilization. On top of it is an 8,000-year-old civilization, and underneath that is a 10,000-year-old civilization. So yes.
Go ahead.
So we know that civilization is 10. I found an artifact that was, I think I've shown you that, and we'll be showing that in my class, a piece of ceramics that the ceramist from Russia said that this is between 10 and 12,000 BC. And she said, it's impossible. I'll never forget that. She was walking around in a daze. Nubia, what you found is impossible. I said, it's very possible, Svetlana, it's in your hand. And I said that exactly to her. And she walked around with that for at least 4 or 5 hours, because the antiquity of the civilization was just sinking in. That site was the African archaeological site of the decade, because what we found there was cutting edge. We found a sliding door, a door that pivoted like a modern door. You could see where the grooves were, that were very modern. We found the temple that had been toppled over. The first representative of Aset, which this originally floated down the river to be venerated in Kemet, 350, 500 AD. So people were venerating the spiritual system of ancient Kush far into Christianity. So people today still hold on to their culture inside of Islam, inside of Christianity. Just we call it like the Kojic church. You know what I mean?
Right.
All that African stuff that's inside of the church, they embedded it inside of there as to not suffer any persecution, because it was the same type of persecution that we can say that people experience here in the United States when forced to change their religion, because everybody in the area, the Romans, had influenced the Ethiopians, which were practicing similar to Christianity. So it was not difficult to change them over to Christianity because they had similar things in place. And as you know, the evolution of that, slowly taking those black figures, Aset, Asir, and Heru out, right, and replacing them. And where they took the black woman out of the spiritual system, that's where you find the Holy Ghost. You know what I mean? I call it the hole in the spiritual system.
Right, exactly. And we see the worship of the Black Madonna and Child in Europe even before the African Moors going in 711 AD. Mm-hmm. They were worshiping the Black Madonna and Child all throughout Europe. And France, coming from the research from our friend who's not ancestor, Renoko Rashidi, France probably has the most representations of the Black Madonna and Child, which is around 300 between paintings and statues, as he talked about in his book, Black Star, the African Presence in Early Europe.
The Eiffel Tower is representing Aset. It's called the Black Lady because the Eiffel Tower actually represents that lady. And there was worship of Aset. Before Notre Dame, they were worshiping Aset there. Paris means house of Isis.
Yeah, House of Isis. Yeah, Para-Isis. It's like
They're building
para-isotopic.
those temples and churches right on top of
Right.
what was worshipped before. So all this is Nile Valley civilization that lands there. I would say that it came in through the Roman influence. At the beginning of the contact with Rome and the French and the Germans.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the Notre Dame Cathedral, well, Notre Dame means Our Lady, number one.
That's
Number
right.
two, is built on the remains of what used to be a temple dedicated to Osset or Isis.
That's right.
Okay. So we have to peel back the layer of European culture, and you find African culture behind that. Okay.
And that's what this class is about. My first section is the poison of the white racist school of archaeology. It's because the first section, we're gonna peel off all of that. The first section, whatever you thought, we're gonna show you how white racism affected academia and has blinded the way that people even view things. For George Reisner to come into Kush and first of all, he was hanging people to get information for them to tell.
Who was hanging people?
George Reisner was hanging people.
Okay.
In Sudan.
Okay.
The white racist people and all that kind of thing. But he was also saying that Black people did not create these things. These things that he's finding came from some Caucasian mystery people that came and they built these wonderful structures and left these wonderful culture, which they found jewelry, they found fashion, they found books, they found, scrolls, they found a culture that was in place. And the oral history, you can go to the people now, many of the people, especially the people that are out into the rural communities, they know their history. They have historians and who can tell you about their family history. Each one of them can say, well, no, there were regents in this area. There were women governors that are like governors, and they ran each one of these areas and they reported to the queen. You know what I mean? So they had their system set up. Dr. Usman Ali, Dr. Ali Usman, who was the gentleman I wanted to study to under University of Khartoum. He was the one who discovered a school dedicated to women. One of my other points that I'm very interested is how the world actually worshipped the Most High in the form of women. I leave out the word God that's commonly used because people didn't use the word God. They used the Most High because literally they're talking about the Most High in the sky. The person, the thing, the power that created the universe and how scientific these deities are. We're going to get into that in the class.
Right.
The next section we'll do is the prehistory and ancient Kerma in Uganda and the Nile Valley, and we'll talk about these spiritual systems and the connections.
Now, what period of time are you talking about when African people used the term Most High to refer to supreme being, or what people today are taught to call God?
That's all the way up to probably 500 AD.
Going back how far?
Before writing.
Before writing.
The Seshet, who is the woman who created Medu Neter. Sesh is the Medu Neter word for scribe. So Seshet, the woman who created language, she's creating this about at the first dynasty, so about the 6,000 years.
Right around 3,000 BC or so.
Right.
BCE.
About 36, 38.
36, 38. Okay, right around.
But she's existed. They call her the Lady of Numbers. She also she's venerated as the person when you have to build a building or temple, you have to venerate her because she's going to make sure all the accuracy is there. All the measuring, all the accuracies, and she created language. So Seshet is a very important woman, and I would think that many of these women are rolled in over time. The names changes, the names change, the stories more gets added onto them. I would say that Neat, Seshet, and Osset are probably rolled into one by the time you get to probably about 2000 BC, that they're all rolled into one and all of their attributes are similar.
Okay. Now, tell people when your class starts, how many sessions there are, and how they can register for it.
Okay, there are 9 sessions. I have 9 sessions where we're having a class Mondays and Thursdays. You can register for the class by just emailing me at nwardford@hotmail.com. That's my name, N Wardford, N for Nubia, Wardford, WARD, F as in Frank, ORD @hotmail.com. And
we're going to put it here on the screen also. Go ahead.
And then you put the title of the course and the subject, just say Kush course, and I'll send you all the information. There are payment plans available and discounts for teachers, seniors. We have those in students. And whatever it is, we're going to make it affordable for you. The object is to make sure that this information gets out and that our people are beginning to understand that we are connected with it. The question that I get most from people, and people don't understand, they say, well, what does ancient Kemet and what does that Nile Valley stuff have to do with us today?
Right.
Well, when we were inundated with all these different cultures, we began to migrate elsewhere to West Africa. And there you go. There's the connection. When I walk in, when I go to Sudan, if I don't open my mouth, guess what people do? They come up to me, they start talking to me in their language. We are the same people. I mean, I have had people tell me that you're not, your parents aren't from America. You're not telling the truth, because they just think that, I'm just saying, no, ma'am, my mother's from Mississippi and my father's from Tennessee. And they say, well, where is that? Where's that strange land? We don't know where that is, because that's the connection. People, as they're getting their DNA test, they're getting their DNA test that said that they're from West Africa, but depending on the DNA pool that they use to, for those tests, you're not getting it. But the DNA pool for many people, they're coming up, they're from Egypt by way of West Africa. West African cultures, when I first visited Ghana, the people showed me their totems, which are their burial sites, which represent each one of their ancestors. And they said, and this is the first time I heard it, those in back came from Egypt. Now this came from the people, from the historians, from the chiefs, from the historians and the griots that are there that actually tell the history of each ethnic group. And I was floored. And then I saw elements of the culture that are definitely Nile Valley civilization. I have a friend whose last name is Lowe. Well, I've met several of the Lowe family in Sudan. And he said, oh, the Lowe family is from Ancient Kush. I said, yeah, I've met some Lowes. And they looked very similar to him. If I showed you a picture of him and the lower part of his face and mashed it up with King Tut, you couldn't tell the difference from King Tut's facial structure than this brother from Sudan. So we are the same people. DNA is showing us that right now. It is definitely proving what the people way back in 1996 first told me, my first visit to Ghana.
Wow. You mentioned the relationship between ancient Kemet and African Americans today, or the Nile Valley region of Africa. And it's important to really understand this history. This includes ancient Kush as well. And the reason why is because so many African Americans have been, our understanding of history oftentimes can be shaped by roots. Roots to Menasiri, Kunta Kinte. And even though the transatlantic slave trade is part of our history. It's not the totality of our history. So a lot of people don't understand how African people migrate from the Nile Valley region of Africa into Central Africa, into West Africa. And when we look at Ghana, Ghana comes into existence somewhere around like 300 BC. There's a relationship between when, Dr. David Imhotep, who, just recently passed away in the past few weeks. Okay. Dr. David Imhotep talks about how the Dogon of Mali were originally in ancient Kemet. Okay, the Dogon who are in Mali and Burkina Faso, the Yoruba were originally in ancient Kemet as well. And there was an African American man. There was a story. Tony Browder. We both know. We're both friends with Tony Browder. Tony Browder wrote this landmark book, Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization. One of my favorite books, and I use this. I just interviewed Browder in April 2023. I use that book in my classes also. Tony sent me a video. It was an interview with this brother named Dexter Caffey. Okay, and this video is on YouTube. I'm trying to find the article on it because I don't want to show the video here because I don't want this to get flagged. But Dexter Caffey is an African American businessman, and he did a DNA test, and his DNA test discovered that he is a direct descendant of Nasubiti or Pharaoh Ramses III. Okay, he's a direct descendant of Ramses III, and he actually looks like when we look at statues of Ramses III, he actually looks like him as well. So, this is important to understand this connection because I know I've heard Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. say, and I'm not a big fan of Gates, but I tell people he does do some good research when it comes to we got to do some good research when it comes to, say, African American history, things like this. Ancient Africa is that's not his area of expertise. But I've heard him say, well, the pyramids in ancient Egypt don't have anything to do with African Americans because most of the slaves came from West Africa. I've heard him say this, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? African people didn't stay put. Okay, we have articles from face-to-faceafrica.com that talk about in Asia, but specifically they talk about the Negritos in, I can't remember exactly which country it is, but those were originally African people. Okay, we didn't stay put. So give us the date and time that your class is going to be as well. You mentioned October 16th, but you didn't say what time. Tell us what time your class is going to be.
October 16th, Mondays and Thursdays from 6:30 p.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time, to 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. You can join the class by emailing me at nwardford@hotmail.com. Put in the title Kush Course or Course so that I'll know, so that I can sort you out from the junk mail that I receive. So
Kush Course. Okay, that's what I wanted. So we'll put we'll put your email address back up, and then Kush Course in subject.
Put that in the subject area. And then we'll talk about it. I'm not going to turn away anybody who wants to take this class. I'm going to tell you that we want the idea of me doing this is so that you can trace your history down in your family. History needs to be a family affair. Everybody in every household, somebody should know something about their ancient history. We know we're from Mississippi. We know we're from Tennessee. We know we're from Bama. Okay. But we had a home before those. And there is evidence, as Brother David Imhotep has certified, that we were here. There's evidence in Detroit, Michigan, the Detroit Institute of Arts, that in the basement there is an ancient Egyptian burial that was found on Mountain Road and 10-11 Mile, somewhere in that area. And it was an ancient Egyptian burial, and it looks like a royal burial that somebody from the royal family around the 18th dynasty was making a voyage over here and passed away. They have the gold burial mask that was buried in one of those mounds. So we know there's a connection, that this mound culture actually relates back to ancient Egyptian culture in some way.
Right.
That, we know that, there were pyramids that exist at different places in the United States. Some of them have submerged. Some of them are on the coast of Cuba. Some of them are in Japan. That these people, even in Sarajevo, we know that there are 3 pyramids that are covered up by trees that the Bosnians will not let people do research on, because you know what they're going to find. They don't want the research to be done because they're going to find Black people. And there were Black people living in Eastern Europe a long time ago as well. Black people, as Runoko Rashidi has found out, are the founders of the world, that existed all over the world in all different places. And if you go back to the traditional history of the First Nations picture, people, they, in their iconography, they have the black or brown bear, which represents the ancestors. That represents Black people. That when they came here, they found Black people. And that if you talk to them, all of them will say the same thing if they're traditionalist.
Exactly.
So, you know what I mean? This, we have to pull the white hood off of history, because it's been usurped. It's been clanized. That's what I tell it. They didn't put the white hoods all over history, and now we got to take them off. And this is what this class is about.
Right. And it's interesting that we're having this conversation on October 12th, because this is the commemoration of Columbus landing in what he called what we call today the Bahamas, or he called San Salvador, which means Saint Savior. And there were African people in some of those areas that he went to. And we know that he was using nautical instruments based upon technology that the Moors introduced into Europe, like the astrolabe. And on some of his ships, we know he had Moors navigating some of his ships as well. So it's important for us to study. Some people want to cast aside Christopher Columbus. It's true he never came to the land we call the United States of America. The closest he came here was Cuba, which is 90 miles away. But Columbus is crucial to understanding the spread of slavery, racism, capitalism, and the exploitation of indigenous people. And it also further connects us to the history of the Moors in Europe, especially Spain. And because the Moors lose control of their last stronghold, Granada, January 2nd, 1492, and Columbus sets sail for the so-called New World, August 3rd, 1492. So in the same year, all that stuff is connected. But the Moors connect us to the Nile Valley region of Africa, because they're taking the teachings from the Nile Valley region of Africa into Europe. And these teachings help bring Europe out of the Dark Ages, but it's to our detriment. So we have your class starting up October 16th. We want to give a shout out to Brother Enoch Hankerson, who's watching. Jerome McMillan here in Detroit is watching. And the Big Swarm Diggs as well. Philippines was the country I was thinking of, where you had the Negritos.
You have Black people in all of those places. I mean,
all those places. Yep.
All of those places. Another thing is that along with studying ancient Sudan, I do underwater archaeology. I hope to work with Ayana and Donovan to do underwater archaeology in the Caribbean and some other places too, because one of my interests is resistance archaeology as well, which a lot of the resistance archaeology evidence lays on the bottom of oceans and things like that, on the shores of the Caribbean, but also the Olmec and the Belize. I'm doing research with Dr. Stan Walling, and we are studying the water reservoirs that are collected by that were constructed by the Maya people. Well, you can't tell where the Maya civilization starts and the Olmec ends, because they incorporated the Olmec civilization that had pre-existed their migration. But that civilization has so many different aspects of it that are definitely connected with ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it. I mean, even the, and goes back to ancient. I believe that the tree, the ceiba tree, is represented first in ancient Egypt as Osiris, the king of the overworld and the older world, and that tree from voodoo. All of these things can be traced on back to ancient Egypt and travel around wherever we went. We took our culture. Tony Browder also discovered Ndinkra symbols, which I have on top. He discovered that there was a Sankofa symbol in the 25th dynasty. That's the first time anybody, that's a huge find, has
Right.
made a direct connection to West Africa, to ancient Egypt. So he in the physical, there's a debate between archaeologists and historians. Historians say you don't need archaeologists. Archaeologists say you don't need historians. We need them both, because
Right.
archaeologists has the physical evidence of the documentation that the historians have. And if we could stop these silly debates and who's more important than the other, very Eurocentric. That's why we come from a holistic approach. Well, I need paleontologists, I need chemists, I need archaeologists, I need historians, I need all of that to make sure that we are telling this story in the most truthful light as possible.
Exactly. And I look at a lot of that information from different sources and look at the archaeology, look at the history, paleontologists as well. And there's so many discoveries that are coming out, are coming out on a weekly basis. You mentioned, I want you to talk briefly about some of your other class sessions that you have, because you have 9 class sessions. I think you
Yes.
said 9. Okay. But you mentioned Tennessee.
Yes.
Okay. Now, a lot of people don't know this.
Yeah.
I deal with this in my classes, and people are blown away by this. A lot of people don't know this.
Yeah. And who was one of the first people that discussed this with you?
You. But I did additional research, and I found this here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so so people hear the word Memphis, Tennessee, and they hear Memphis in Egypt, right? And then people wonder, well, is there a connection between the two? Okay, yes, there is. Okay, so in my research, I came across the University of Memphis, which is in Memphis, Tennessee, and they have at the University of Memphis, they have an Institute of Egyptian Art and Archaeology. Okay, now this is memphis.edu. This is the university's website. Okay, so right here, they have brief history of the IEAA. That's the Institute of Egyptian Art and Archaeology. And they talk about the founding of Memphis, Tennessee, and a relationship to Memphis, Egypt. And they say the city of Memphis, Tennessee has always had a special connection to its ancient namesake, Memphis, Egypt. The American city, Memphis, Tennessee, was founded in 1819 by General, later President Andrew Jackson, that white supremacist president Andrew Jackson, General James Winchester, and Judge John Overton. And they say, based on its strategic position at the head of the delta of the Mississippi River, sometimes called the American Nile. So the Mississippi River is sometimes called the American Nile River. The city of Memphis, Tennessee was named after the ancient capital of Egypt, which was located at the head of the Nile River Delta. Okay, so this is why Memphis, Tennessee is called Memphis. Okay, right. And it's in relationship to ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. Go ahead, Sister Nubia.
And the other thing is, as you know, Memphis means the beautiful city or the beautiful land. Right. And Tennessee was thought to be one of the most majestic places in the United States. And it's called Ta-Nehisi. Yes. Tennessee and Ta-Nehisi have now there's a debate whether Ta-Nehisi meant land of the snakes or land of, or what it means, because it's an ancient language.
Or land of the serpent, something like that. Yeah.
But Tennessee was also had more snakes in it than any other state, and that Ta-Nehisi, that the ancient people that lived there, there's a connection to the name Ta-Nehisi and named it Tennessee, because the people that lived there before the white folks that settled the land, the Europeans, they named that area Tennessee. So it's not even known now. They have now, you'll see, but it wasn't known until just fairly recently what Tennessee meant, what were the origins of that name. Just coming out that I think there's an ancient language that they're equating it to. I mean, you know, anytime you dig deep, you're going to come up with us. Even Michigan,
Right. Yeah.
Michigan with the Ojibwa, we have Taquanamon Falls, which means land of the water god Amen, right in Michigan. Okay, so the Ojibwa people, who are people who pretty much look like the man you're sitting here looking at right now, like brother David, Michael Imhotep,
Right.
you know, and the Ojibwa people, you know, are the people that name these rivers, you know, Michigan.
So that was a Native American nation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The
and what's it?
people-
Ojibwa?
Ojibwa is the name is
Ojibwa.
bastardized into Chippewa.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay, but it is the Ojibwa people, and those people were also the people that handed off that traded Mackinac Island for the Baptiste, who is the founder of Chicago.
Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
because they said,
John,
"Oh no, you can't come and take our brother back to slavery." It's thought that he came from Haiti, may have come from Haiti. It's not
John Baptiste.
ever not sure, but they considered him their brother, and he could speak Ojibwa, he could speak French. He's a mystery man. I really would like to find out more about him, but he's not around here to tell his story.
Right.
But he ended up in Michigan from Haiti, you know what I mean, and ended up with the Ojibwa people, which probably had some hand in getting him here through these waters called the Great Lakes. If you know, because you can take the Great Lakes around to Florida, and through Florida you can get to where you can get to Haiti, right?
Right.
So you know what I mean. That's the Nubian theory. You know, Michael knows I always have these theories, but there's no proof of this, but it makes sense because the Native Americans 75 was created from the Ojibwa people and all of those traditional people going from the up north Michigan down south to Florida for the wintertime. They didn't stay up north. They weren't crazy. They didn't stay up north in the winter when it gets to be 40 below zero, 30 below zero. They went to the sun in Florida and they came back up to Michigan and to enjoy the beauty of Michigan, because Michigan, you know, big water, still water, is one of the most beautiful places in the world in the summer.
You said that's how 75 was created. You're talking about I-75 freeway?
I-75 was an old First Nations trail from up north Michigan.
Because it goes north to south. Yeah.
Yeah.
Freeways that end in odd numbers go north to south. Even numbers go east to west. Okay, right. Like I-94 west, they go east to west. 75 north, it goes north and south. Okay, so we're looking at the interstate highway, even though it ran through African American communities and destroyed African granddaughter. Even though it ran through African American communities and destroyed African American communities, but it has it's like an ancient highway. It's like based upon an ancient highway, also, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, you have some other class sessions, the Levant theory and ancient chemists' connection with ancient Kush, the importance of the 18th dynasty, Nubian spiritual systems affect ancient Kemet and Christianity, possible relationship to Hindu, the Nubian Kushite identity crisis in academia. Now, I know one of the things, and I'm going to pull this up here, because I know one of the things that you love to talk about is dealing with Amanashakito, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Queen Amanashakito. And I know you love to talk about the Kandakis and the African queens and things like this, okay? So this is an article from AtlantaBlackStar.com. I have one from Face to Face Africa. I can't find it. I have to try to pull that up. But this is one from AtlantaBlackStar.com on Queen Amanishakheto. So tell us about her and the Kandakis.
Amanishakheto. Amen is the god Neat of the land of Ta. Okay, so that's what her name means. Amanishakheto, we think now it's Amanitore, but anyway, she was one of these queens, because there's still a little bit of debate which one it was, but we know one did. She fought off the Romans coming into ancient Sudan. They never did come into the land of Meroitic. They never did come into Sudan because Amanishakheto walked into Augustus Caesar's encampment, which they came with 30,000 soldiers to come and try to take over Sudan. And she rode in between two elephants and told him, well, you can come in, but you're not going to leave out. Right. And so she came in and she sacked his camp. Her and her troops sacked his camp, and they brought his bust of his, because they always would bring a statue of the leader, and they posted in front of their camp, in front of his tent. And so she stole that, and she buried it under the throne of the throne, the step of her throne. So when she got on her throne, she could step on his face every time she got on her throne. This is the best story. This is the definition of badass sister to me. And so, but whether it's a Amanitore or whether it's a Amanishakheto, I think it's on page 155 of the African Civilizations book by Sheikh Anta Diop. Okay. And the story is there where Sheikh Anta Diop tells that story. So if you want to read that story over and over like I do, go to page 155 and read that story, because it's really, really it tells. And Sheikh Anta Diop was one of the first to say it, him and Chancellor Williams, that the antiquity of ancient Sudan is going to go farther back than the reach of human history. Wow.
Absolutely. Okay. So tell people once again how they can register for your class, how they can get information, and when your class starts up.
My class is starts Monday, October 16th at 6:30 p.m. We will have a Teams platform. We can have up to 300 people in the class. Mondays and Thursdays from 6:30 to 8:15. Probably allow yourself 8:30 just in case Q&A gets kind of hot. And we want to hear from, there'll be no test, basically presentations, and you will fill out your question sheets from our discussion in class. And then in the last two sessions, each of the students is going to present a paper on the subject that they want to research and that they want to talk about, like a 3-minute paper. So
3-minute paper. Okay. Okay.
Teaching to the students teaching. And that's where I want to leave the ball in the laps of the students, because it's very important that they come away with this knowledge. We can have discussion time. They may bring me some information I've never heard of. You know what I mean? Right. So, just, as you say, I know some things, but I'm not going to claim to know everything. And I do accept, I love the discussion, because sometimes the discussion portion of the classes can go far out there. We're going to make sure we keep it encapsulated to Ancient Kush, though.
Okay. Okay. So email her at Wardford, the letter N, Wardford, WARD, FORD at hotmail.com. And the subject line, put Kush, KUSH, course. Put that in the subject line. And you can register for this class. And you're going to learn a lot. I've been to her, been to a few of her lectures over the years. We've had her here on the African History Network show a number of times. So this is a bad sister right here. You're going to be blown away from Sista Nubia Wardford. Name of her class, Prehistory and History of Ancient Kush to the Meroitic queens. And she loves talking about the Kandakis and the African queens. And they don't get talked about enough. I don't think they don't get talked about enough. Absolutely. And this
we'll make sure we talk about them well in this course, because we want everybody to understand that these powerful queens ruled for 350 years. On top of the queens from ancient Egypt that don't get their propers. Nefertiti's wasn't just a beautiful face. There's a chapter in Kara Cooney's book. If you ever get a chance to interview her, she's good at interview, Kara Cooney. And she's a director of director or chair of archaeology at UCLA. You know, in her book, she really talks about that. I'll also have copies of a couple of pages from Dr. Ben, from Dr. Ashby, from Dr. Bonner, Bonet, I'm sorry, and other things. So I'm going to share some literature with you, and I will have a pamphlet that I'll have created by the end of the class, that if people want to purchase it, they can purchase that for, you know, my first book that Michael's been telling me to do for at least 15 years or so.
Something like that. Yeah, I've been telling you to do your books, and I told you put your lectures on DVD also.
Yeah, and I have. So yeah, but we really want to stress the importance of you know, each person, someone in each family being the family historian to tell the origins of your family, and then connect them with how we got to this place right here. How did we get in these chairs that we're sitting in Detroit, Michigan? What was our story? How did we get here? What was our family story? And then know that we had a history before them. I had the disfortune, I call it the disfortune to hear a history teacher sit in front of a panel of people and say that, you know, the things in ancient Kemet and all that ancient Kemetic stuff doesn't have anything to do with us in the United States. I had to do everything. You know, people rush up, Nubia, you going to say something? I said, I'm not on the panel. I'm not going to say a thing.
Oh, I wish I was there, but okay.
Yeah. So you know,
what was this? Who was this
educated. She's a historian, and she's one of the top historians in Detroit public schools. All right. And this is the kind of thing that's being said. A beautiful Black woman, very, very, very prideful in being Black, but
what type of history does she teach? I'm sorry. What type of history? I don't
know. She's a history consultant, which she's even more. It's more impactful because she's helping people write their curricula. She's helping people, you know, put the content in their classes. So she's just not a teacher. She is one of the consultants that help decide what the students learn. And until we decide that it's very important to start off in Ma'afa,
right,
European contact, and then take it all the way down, but then do it in a way where we're telling the story. You know what I mean? There's so many aspects of our history that is just not spoken about. I mean, from the Medici family, the World Bank gangsters, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He was married to an African woman, you know, so the Medici family, if you've ever looked at that Medici exhibit that has the first skull of Pope Peter, which is Pope Pata in the Vatican, a brother that carrying his skull around today from place to place to place with this, and see the children of this mulatto family that are mixed race family, mixed blood family from this African woman. She looks like she could have been either from like Guinea or Senegal in her hairstyle. She's definitely from West Africa. And all of those people are Black. And of course, you know, where were they from? Sicily, you know, the southern, you know what I mean? The southern people.
Well, the Moors were intermixing with the Europeans, with the Sicilians, with the Italians.
But I mean, we can call it Moors. This woman was straight up. When you see pictures, ancient, the most ancient picture or oldest picture I've seen of Moors, they had on African attire with big Kenyan necklaces and stuff. Their hair was African, you know, big earrings in there. And when we talk about the Moors, those are the Moors we're talking about, who busted the ass of Spain because they raped Florida got raped. And so she got a letter out. She was, you know, the royalty sends their children around.
So this is under the Visigothic rule. Okay. Right. And this is why the Moors go in.
That's right.
Because emissaries were sent in from the Iberian Peninsula
That's right.
into Morocco to ask them to come and fight against the Visigoths.
And they came over there and they whooped their butts and took it
Yeah.
over for almost 800 years.
Right.
And because they were defending this little 13-year-old princess that had been raped. And that's why now the brothers, you better defend these sisters, because that's the way you defend a sister. That you take a country away from those vandals, those rapists for 700-800 years. And that's the kind of thing that we want to, and unless you know the history, you're not going to have that kind of fervor, that kind of empowerment, that pride to do something like that. You know what I mean? We in Detroit, we standing around taking video cameras while a sister had to jump off stage from her show and stop a fight of a brother beating up a sister right in front of her face. You know what I mean? That shouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? I'm going off subject, but I'm just telling you, the Moorish folks wouldn't have happened under, the Moorish people came all the way from Africa to come in and beat their butt and keep it for 700-800 years. And that's why you have the bull run that happens every spring, where the ceremony of the Spanish running the big black brothers out of Spain. And that's where it comes from.
Okay, running with the bulls.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the origin of running with the bulls, dealing with in Spain. And we see a lot of that when we look at Joie de Piet, Black Pete, and Center Class. Center Class is now have the little children, okay, but Center Class is the origin, part of the origin dealing with Santa Claus. Center Class is Dutch, which means Saint Nicholas, and we know Saint Nicholas is based upon Bishop Nicholas, who was a real person, and he was 3rd, 4th century in Myra, which is modern day Turkey. He was an African man, but he's mythologized, and Center Class had a red and white outfit. He had a sidekick named Black Pete, Joie de Piet, who was a Moor. Okay. And this was celebrated, Joie de Piet, this was celebrated in Holland, in the Netherlands, and they still have the celebration starting in early November each year, running through to about December 6th of Center Class and Joie de Piet. And you have these Europeans, they put on blackface and Afro wigs, and they put on costumes resembling the Moors from like medieval time, and they imitate Joie de Piet as well. And you can during Christmas season, you start seeing stories coming out of Holland and people protesting against this. There's more and more protests each year against this because they're saying it's racist and things like this. But this goes back to the history of the Moors in Spain, and that celebration starts with Center Class coming into the Netherlands on a steamboat, and they say he's coming from Spain with Joie de Piet. Okay, so all this history takes us right back to African people. All right. Well, look, Sista Nubia, it's always good talking to you. People register for her class. You're going to learn a lot from her. Okay. We
talk from ancient Kerma to Christmas. How do we get there?
All right. Well, yeah, Christmas, and then Christmas that ties into the winter solstice, which ties into astronomy, which ties you into Asar, Aset, and Heru, and Heru being born on December 25th. All that is connected. Okay.
We're going to talk about Father Time and Osiris and all that kind of thing in the class when we talk about the connections to Christianity, as well as the iconography in the Christian church, which goes all the way back to ancient Egypt, mushrooms, and all kinds of things. So it's just a wonder. We really are going to explore Africa in the most African-centered, truth-centered way possible. There's not going to be any hyperbole, no racism. It is just going to be truth.
Absolutely. I've seen some of her information dealing with the iconography and how She talks about how ancient Africa, especially ancient Kemet, is preserved within the iconography in the Christian church today. So that's going to blow away a whole lot of people. Okay. That's going to blow away a whole lot of people, a whole lot of saints when they see something like that. Okay. All right, Sister Nubia. Well, look, it's always good talking to you. Peace to you and the family. Everybody register for her course. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Talk to you later, Sister. Peace. Hotel.
Peace.
All right, everybody. That was Sista Nubia Wardford. You've seen her a number of times here on the African History Network show. Follow us here on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep as well. Be sure to visit my website, also TheAHNShow.com. Now, we're updating our website. We're not on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF anymore, but the African History Network show continues because I was doing the African History Network show before 9:10 even came into existence. So I got to update this. I got to put another picture there, but we're going to be on basically Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This Sunday, we may start at 8 p.m. I got so much content. I've been busy and I haven't been able to do the show live on Sundays since I got the notification that the radio station was shutting down. So it was fine with me. Also, register for my online history classes. We teach on Saturdays and Sundays. We got the information there as well. My lectures, we have a lot of my lectures in digital download format. And we have a bundle pack. Now, this is the interview I did with Tony Browder that I mentioned. We dealt with why Nile Valley civilization history matters. We talked about African queens and the power of the media, etc. This is the interview I did with Dr. Malefi Asante, who's at Temple University, Queen Cleopatra from Jada Pinkett Smith, Arab Egyptian backlash and anti-blackness. And here's an interview I did with one of my teachers, Professor James Small. We dealt with the Woman King and the real history of the West African kingdom of Dahomey. But we have my 15 lecture bundle pack of my lectures, African History Awakens the African Mind for Mental Death. It's in digital download format. Okay, so that's on sale. You can check that out. You can, as soon as you download that, you can start watching the content. That's on sale, $75. And then we have some of my lectures here, as well as online classes and everything. If you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, you can email me right through the website, contact the African History Network, or email me at AHNShow at TheAHNShow.com, AHNShow at TheAHNShow.com to if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, or if you want to interview me on your show, on your podcast, or whatever it is. Okay. Email me for that as well. And we'll try to make that happen. All right. We follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. Turn on live notifications so you know when we go live. Follow me on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Turn on live notifications so you know when we go live. And I'm on Instagram as well, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. On Instagram. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Also, you can support us through Cash App and PayPal, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. That's on our website. As well, and we have let me put the information up here. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills as well, pay for all these services that I use, upgrade equipment when we have to upgrade equipment. But we have that right on the homepage of our website. Also, when you scroll down, and we have this is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN Show, SHOW. When you go to it, it'll say Michael. Some of these other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts, and I'm still trying to get them shut down because they've been stealing money from us. So our tag is $ the AHN Show, SHOW. I put our Cash App tag right here. When you click on it, it shows you our QR code. Okay, so you know this is us. And then our PayPal tag is there, PayPal link also. All right, we have to get out of here right now. It's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you read, heard, and seen about yourself. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time.